fizesse com que as pessoas compreendessem pelo menos o que é o Ocidente, o que norteia o Estado de Israel e o que é o Islã, certo? Aí eu peguei 3 vídeos muito instrutivos, certo? 3 vídeos bastante instrutivos. Eu gostaria muito que vocês os assistissem, nenhum deles é muito longo, e aí depois eu entro com uma breve explicação. Espero que vocês aproveitem.
There was an interview with Menachem Begin in the 1940s. And he was interviewed by an American journalist. They said, "How do you feel about the public perception that you are the father of terrorism in the Middle East?" And he retorted and said, "In the Middle East, I'm the father of terrorism in the entire world. We invented terrorism in the entire world." And it's true. The early Zionist settlers, when they rebelled against their British colonial rulers, after the British imposed restrictions on entry to the Mandate of Palestine, they engaged in terrorism. And they actually invented, just like today, novel means of using explosives and other weapons to terrify the occupying force. They are largely given credit for inventing the modern-day bus bombing, blowing up buses and automobiles with explosives. They invented it. And they carried out throughout the occupation by the British brutal acts of terrorism, false flag acts of terrorism against civilian and military targets, against infrastructure and personnel, in some cases against Americans. And then when they became a state in 1948, they merely formalized that violence by calling the previous terrorist groups the military. Before Israel was a sovereign state recognized by the United Nations and the United States, they were terrorist groups. They were militant terrorist groups conducting irregular warfare using terroristic methods. But you see, then they became a state, and they formalized and legitimized the violence by calling all the terrorists and terrorist leaders the military. And so the Haganah became the IDF, and the leaders and the progenitors of terrorism became the generals and the ministers of the Israeli government.
Once your phone is hacked, what is in their hands is not simply your device, it is your future. They're selling our future, they're selling our past, they are selling our history, our identity, and ultimately, they are stealing our power. The screen may be off as it's sitting on your desk, but the device is talking all of the time. The question we have to ask is, who is it talking to? If I get a smartphone and I need to use a phone, I actually open it up before I use it. Anything you can do on that device, the attacker, in this case the government, can do. Before 2013, if you said there's a system that's watching everything you do, the government is collecting records of every phone call in the United States, even for those people who are not suspected of any crime, it was a conspiracy. Yes, there were some people who believed it was happening. Yes, there were academics who could say this was technically possible. The world of 2013, we suspected, some suspected that this was happening. The world after 2013, we know that it's happening. We have now had the first European regulations that are trying to limit the amount of data that can be collected secretly and used against populations broadly. And we have also seen the basic structure of the internet itself change in response to this understanding that the network path that all of our communications cross. When you request a website, when you send a text message, when you read an email, for so long those communications have been electronically naked or unencrypted. Before 2013, more than half the world's internet communications were unencrypted. Now, far more than half are, measured by just web traffic from one of the world's leading browsers, the Google Chrome browser. The entire world has changed. in the last few years. It hasn't gone far enough. The problems still exist. And in some ways, they've gotten worse. But we have made progress that would not have been possible if we didn't know what was going on. They can read your email. They can collect every document. They can look at your contact book. They can turn the location services on. They can see anything that is on that phone instantly and send it back home to the mothership. They can do the same with laptops. The other prong that we forget so frequently is that in many cases they don't need to hack our devices. They can simply ask Google for a copy of our email box, because Google saves a copy of that. Everything that you ever typed into that search box, Google has a copy of. Every private message that you've sent on Facebook, every link that you've clicked, everything that you've liked, they keep a permanent record of. And all of these things are available not just to these companies, but to our governments, as they are increasingly deputized as sort of miniature arms of government.
What about enabling your microphone camera?
If you can do it, they can do it. It is trivial to remotely turn on your microphone or to activate your camera, so long as you have systems-level access. If you had hacked someone's device remotely, anything they can do, you can do. They can look up your nose, right? They can record what's in the room. The screen may be off as it's sitting on your desk, but the device is talking all of the time. The question we have to ask is, who is it talking to? Even if your phone is not hacked, right now, you look at it, it's just sitting there on the charger. It is talking tens or hundreds or thousands of times a minute to any number of different companies who have apps installed on your phone. It looks like it's off, it looks like it's just sitting there, but it is constantly chattering. And it is the invisibility of it that makes it so popular and common and attractive for these companies. Because if you do not realize they're collecting this data from you, this very private and personal data, there's no way you're going to object to it. Once your phone is hacked, what is in their hands is not simply your device, it is your future. And these activity records are being created and shared and collected and intercepted constantly by companies and governments. And ultimately it means as they sell these, as they trade these, as they make their businesses on the backs of these records, what they are selling is not information. What they're selling is us. They're selling our future. They're selling our past. They are selling our history, our identity, and ultimately, they are stealing our power and making our stories work for them. If I get a smartphone and I need to use a phone, I actually open it up before I use it. I perform a kind of surgery on it to physically desolder or sort of melt the metal connections that hold the microphone on the phone. And I physically take this off. I remove the camera for the phone, and then I close it back up, I seal it up. And then if I need to make a phone call, I will attach an external microphone on it. And this is just so if the phone is sitting there and I'm not making a call, it cannot hear me. Now this is extreme. Most people do not need this. But for me, it's about being able to trust our technology. My phone could still be hacked. My laptop could still be hacked. And just as I told you before, the same principles apply to me. If it is hacked, they can do anything to the device that I can do. So my trust in technology is limited.
Wanted me to lie down with her, so I did. And the next morning I was woken by my children who came calling for me. Mummy, Mummy, Daddy's not waking up. I went to the bed and found my husband not responsive, and we called the ambulance. So what happens? He's not responsive. The ambulance comes. We take him to get a scan. They say that he's had a stroke and that there is brain damage and he's in a coma, and they don't know how long he'll be in the coma or what his state will be if he wakes up. So I'm sitting there. It's been 17 years of this man, a constant in my life, this beloved husband, wonderful father, mashallah, tabarakallah. My children are looking to me for answers. When is daddy going to wake up? When is he coming home? When are you coming home? And I don't know what to tell them. So he's in the coma and the people start coming. They come with gifts. They come with dua. They come with Quran. They come with love. How wonderful people come into your life when you need them. And I'm sitting there. I'm the one who has to phone his mother. This is her youngest child. And I have to tell her, Mom, he's in a coma. They don't know whether he's going to wake up. I have to hear a mother's heart breaking. And I have to go through all the scenarios. What if he stays in a coma for 3 years? What happens then? You know, there's an interesting thing that people do when somebody is in a coma. They come and they tell you miraculous stories. I knew someone, they were in a coma for 6 months. Wallahi. And they woke up and they were fine. Sister, you'll be okay. Sister, I heard about someone whose husband was in a coma for 3 years. Wallahi. And when he woke up, everything was okay. They had another baby last year. They think this is comforting. I don't, because I don't know how to navigate my life with my husband in this coma. But Allah is the owner of the heavens and the earth, and He decides. So, Ya Rab, if he will be in a coma for however long, I accept. Then they say, when he wakes up, he may have severe brain damage. He may not recognize you or the children. I say, Allah is the owner of the heavens and the earth. He decides. And if my husband wakes up and he is no longer the man that he was, I accept. And then what if he doesn't come back? Subhanallah, I went through every scenario, which is what you do. You go through every scenario, what could possibly happen, and Allah gives me the chance to accept each scenario. Say, Ya Rab, this is in your hands. Whatever you decide, I accept. So one day, a sister comes with a story for me. And this was a story that did give me comfort. She said, you know, there was a husband and a wife. They had a daughter. And this daughter, from when she was born, she was very ill. And the doctor said she wouldn't survive past 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. But the daughter survived. Until one day she got too sick and they took her into hospital. And the hospital staff said, you have to leave her here. So they come back the next day and the doctors say, it's not looking good. She needs this, she needs that. And the man says to his wife, not yet. They come back the next day, the doctors tell them the prognosis. The man says to his wife, not yet. Then they come back the next day and the hospital staff tell them that their daughter has passed away. And the husband says to his wife, now. And they both fall into sujood of shukr. The hospital staff are shocked. Your daughter's just died. You're making sujood of shukr. What's happening here? And the parents explained and they said, Allah blessed us with this child for 5 years, 6 years, longer than the doctor said. We were blessed to know her, to love her, to get the ajr of caring for her, of making sure she was comfortable. This is something to be grateful for. And if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala decides to take her back, we decided we would only embrace gratitude. We would truly embody Alhamdulillah ala kulli hal. So when after 2 weeks, I got the phone call and the doctor said that we tried to revive him, but your husband is no more. Your husband has returned to Allah. I said, Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. Thank you. I put down the phone and I went into sujood of shukr. Because of the 17 years, because of the 5 children, because of the love and the memories and the solace and the garment that I was blessed with for 17 years was on loan to me. Brothers and sisters, we as human beings are ungrateful. If you go to the bottom of almost all our issues, you'll find ingratitude, taking things for granted, thinking we deserve more. Why should I not have what so-and-so has, what I used to have, what I have always dreamt of having? We take for granted the people in our lives, and that includes our spouses. And to be honest, my hunch is that we take for granted our spouse more than everybody else. Why do I tell this story? Because I want those of you who are married, those of you who inshallah will be married, I want you to wake up to the ni'mah that is right there beside you. The fact that another person has agreed to share their life with you, to build a life with you, to tolerate your nonsense, to make excuses for you, to love you in spite of your craziness, this is something to say alhamdulillah for.
É texto do Marat Kiralim, Hairulim, perdão, cujo título está publicado no Seikers Latinoamérica é Eles Gospem em Você com a Força Hipersônica. Percebeu que os americanos ficaram envergonhados depois que as notícias atingiram o estado cujo nome não pode ser dito como míssil hipersônico? O tema dos ataques de longo alcance desapareceu imediatamente. Deve-se dizer que, para um especialista, Esse tipo de ataque diz muito. Por exemplo, o ataque hipersônico dos Houthis pode ser considerado muito diplomático. O míssil voou ao longo da costa do Mar Vermelho e, após afetar minimamente o território dos países adjacentes ao Estado ilegítimo, atingiu o alvo. Ou seja, ele tentou não voar, por exemplo, para o território da Arábia Saudita, com o qual os Houthis ainda estão, de fato, tecnicamente em guerra. Por que essa atitude repentina? Em outras palavras, o foguete, voando a uma velocidade de mais de 10 mil km por hora, manobrou ativamente, e isso por si só é um avanço técnico extraordinário. Os americanos, por exemplo, ainda não foram capazes de vencer essa façanha. Então, como os Houthis conseguiram isso? Além disso, um voo de longo alcance ao longo de uma trajetória tão complexa como um míssil hipersônico significa que os Houthis têm um sistema de navegação muito sofisticado, com satélites poderosos. Um míssil balístico convencional recebe orientações de navegação a cada segmento da sua rota. Caso contrário, ao se aproximar do ponto final, um número tão grande de erros se acumularia e o míssil falharia miseravelmente. Tudo isso exige uma capacidade especial de computação, tecnologia de navegação e, por fim, especialistas. Onde os Houthis conseguiram isso? Até mesmo projetar um corpo de foguete desse tipo, perfil dinâmico de gás especial, isso me parece assustador. É necessário muito poder de computação e muita experiência prática em experimentos. O combustível é outro tópico separado e interminável. O nosso Dagger, o Kinjal, voa a uma velocidade de 7 Mach. Para acelerar ainda mais o foguete, o combustível deve incluir hidrogênio. A combustão desse combustível em si é realizada de um modo especial. Eles escrevem sobre uma certa detonação supersônica na câmara de combustão. Como os Houthis conseguiram aprender tudo isso sem laboratórios, sem químicos, sem experimentos intermináveis e uma base para produzir os materiais adequados, tipo a turbina? De onde vem a experiência em resistência de materiais, matemática avançada, dinâmica de gás, química molecular e física de partículas sólidas? Aponta o dedo para o Irã. Mas de onde o Irã tirou tudo isso se antes o país não tinha nenhuma base em todas essas áreas, nenhuma delas? Não havia milhares de experimentos, campos de testes especiais ou centenas de projetos de pesquisa e desenvolvimento altamente especializados. Não que temos conhecimento. Essas questões surgem um grande número em literalmente todos os estágios de criação e do uso de hipersônicos. Veja, por exemplo, a questão de como os Houthis colocaram a mão nos mísseis se não foram eles que o inventaram. Observe o mapa: Irã, depois Iraque, depois Arábia Saudita, depois via aérea. E onde estão os campos de aviação dos Houthis? Não tem aeroporto capaz de receber aeronaves tão pesadas. Mesmo que tudo isso esteja lá, acontece que os sauditas, que estão formalmente em guerra com os Houthis, devem ter permitido a passagem desses voos. Por quê? Com qual objetivo? Em uma palavra, pergunta após pergunta. Mas mesmo sem se aprofundar em todos esses pontos, o próprio fato dos Houthis terem armas capazes de superar uma das defesas aéreas mais densas do mundo altera seriamente o equilíbrio de poder. Mas muito seriamente. O míssil voou mais de 2.000 km até Israel em cerca de 11 minutos. Mais ou menos a mesma distância, no Golfo de Oman, a 2 porta-aviões dos Estados Unidos. Olha que coincidência. Os Houthis já atingiram o SS Eisenhower. Depois os americanos disseram que eles erraram, mas não mostraram o porta-avião e saíram correndo de lá. A defesa aérea do Carrier Strike Group conseguirá lidar com essa nova ameaça dos Houthis? Ainda mais interessante, o quartel-general da 5ª Frota dos Estados Unidos está localizado bem perto, no Bahrein. A defesa aérea dos Estados Unidos é capaz de se proteger caso essa base se torne um alvo? Em resumo, se os Houthis obtiveram um míssil hipersônico graças à participação da Rússia e do Irã, e em um momento tão oportuno, isso mostra que nossos líderes não são tão simples. Fornecer e implantar essa tecnologia em uma região tão difícil é um indicador de classe e habilidade. O jogo aparentemente continua. E aqueles que jogam por nós possuem mais que um trunfo na manga. Então, gente, resumidamente, os árabes não vão desistir, não vão parar, não serão derrotados. Não se desespere. Vai demorar? Provavelmente um pouco. Vai ser sofrido? Certamente. Mas nós, digo nós não porque eu seja russo ou porque eu seja iraniano. Porque eu sou um ser humano. Contra nós, o Ocidente. O Ocidente é o nosso inimigo. Então nós, da humanidade, vamos vencer. Não vai ser fácil, não vai ser rápido, mas nós vamos vencer. Então não se deixe abalar. Sorria. Você está sendo filmado. Eu não sei o que a NSA vai fazer com essa filmagem, mas você está sendo filmado. Oi, Google. Tchau para vocês.